Twilight never faded in the grove of echoes. The sky above the standing stones remained locked in that perfect moment between day and night. Stars visible, yet the horizon still tinged with the memory of sunlight. Sarah had no idea how long they'd been here. Hours, days. The watch on her wrist had stopped the moment they had entered. Again, Thomas instructed firmly. Focus on the destination, not the distance. Sarah stood in the center of the stone circle, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool air. The wayfinder stone glowed steadily in her palm as she concentrated on a small wooden door that had manifested in one of the standing stones across the grove. "I am focusing," she said through gritted teeth. "It's not working."
You're still thinking of it as physical space to be crossed. The paths don't work that way.
Then how do they work? Everyone keeps telling me what not to do, but no one will explain what I should be doing.
Thomas sighed, exchanging a glance with Ellis. Perhaps we need a different approach. He walked to Sarah and gently closed her fingers around the wayfinder stone. Close your eyes. Now think of a place from your childhood, Thomas instructed softly. Somewhere you felt safe, somewhere that was just yours.
Brow furrowed. What does this have to do with...
Please, trust the process.
There was a reading nook in my elementary school library, behind the geography section. No one ever went there except me.
Good, Thomas said. Can you see it? The shelves, the little chair, the way the light fell through the windows.
A small smile touches her lips. Yes, the chair was this awful orange color, but it was so comfortable. And there was a chip in the paint on the windowsill where I used to rest my books.
Now don't just remember it, feel it. Feel how it was to be there, to be that child in that place.
Sarah's breathing slowed as she sank into the memory. The wayfinder stone in her hand began to pulse with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat.
I can almost smell the books. That mix of paper and dust and the lemon cleaner the librarian used.
The place remembers you too. All places remember those who truly connect with them.
Now, Thomas said, without opening your eyes, take a step forward.
But the door is across the grove.
Distance is an illusion on the paths. Take the step.
The air changed instantly, from the earthy scent of the grove to something else. Paper, dust, and lemon cleaner. Sarah's eyes flew open in shock. She stood in the reading nook of her elementary school library, exactly as she remembered it. The orange chair, the chipped windowsill, even the slant of afternoon light through the windows, all perfect, all impossible. "How?" she gasped, spinning around. Thomas and Ellis stood behind her, looking slightly out of place among the children's books.
You found a path, your first true path.
This can't be real. My elementary school was demolished years ago.
And yet, here it stands, Thomas said. Places of significance never truly disappear, Sarah. They echo in the spaces between reality, accessible to those who know how to find them. Sarah moved to the window and looked out. Instead of the playground that should have been there, she saw only swirling mist, as if the library existed in isolation, disconnected from the world around it.
Is this, are we actually here, or is it some kind of illusion?
Neither, and both. The paths connect to echoes, moments and places preserved by memory and emotion. They're real enough to visit, but they exist outside normal time and space.
So I can visit any place I remember?
Any place that matters to you, Thomas clarified. And eventually, with practice, places that matter to others. That's what makes keepers special. They can find and maintain paths that would otherwise fade away.
A thought struck Sarah suddenly. Could I find my mother this way, if she's still alive somewhere?
The men exchanged uncomfortable glances. The paths don't work that way with people, Ellis said gently. People aren't fixed points, like places. They move, change, exist in linear time.
But...
We should return to the grove. This echo is stable for now, but first paths rarely hold for long.
As if on cue, the library around them shimmered slightly, the edges of the bookshelves becoming less distinct.
How do we get back?
The same way we came. Close your eyes, picture the grove, and step.
Sarah clutched the wayfinder stone, which had grown warmer in this place. She closed her eyes, visualizing the twilight grove and its circle of standing stones. She took a step forward and felt the air change again, the scent of books replaced by the earthy smell of the grove. When she opened her eyes, they were back in the stone circle, exactly where they had started. "I did it," she breathed, looking down at the wayfinder stone with new respect. "I actually did it."
And much faster than we expected. Your mother's talent runs strong in you.
The mention of her mother sobered Sarah's excitement. You still haven't told me what happened to her. Is she alive? Did Horizon capture her?
Thomas and Ellis exchanged another look that made Sarah's stomach tighten.
We don't know. After she hid the wayfinder within you, she disappeared. Some believe she found a path so remote, so hidden, that not even other keepers could follow. Others think...
He trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought.
That Horizon found her.
It's possible, but your mother was resourceful. If anyone could evade them, it would be Eleanor.
A tremor ran through the grove, causing the leaves to shiver on their branches. It wasn't coming from within their sanctuary, but from beyond it, from the library.
They're still testing the defenses. We need to accelerate your training.
Then teach me everything. If finding my mother means mastering these paths, then that's what I'll do.
Ellis smiled sadly. It's not just about finding her, Sarah. If Horizon breaches the library completely, all the forgotten places and the paths connecting them could be severed forever, commercialized, controlled.
Or worse, destroyed.
Another tremor, stronger this time. The twilight sky above them flickered momentarily like a television losing signal.
What was that?
The grove is connected to the library. If one falls, the other becomes vulnerable.
Thomas moved to the center of the stone circle and knelt, placing his palm against the earth. After a moment, his expression grew grave.
The collectors have breached the outer archives. The librarian is holding them at the mezzanine of lost maps, but they're advancing faster than anticipated.
How long do we have?
A day, maybe less.
A day? You said I'd have 3.
Time flows differently here, remember? We've been training for nearly 2 days already by the library's reckoning.
Sarah looked down at the wayfinder stone, its light steady despite her inner turmoil.
Then we don't have time to waste. What's next? How do I create a new path instead of just finding existing ones?
That's much more difficult. It requires not just memory but imagination, the ability to see connections where none apparently exist.
He gestured to the standing stones around them. Each of these represents a nexus point, a place where multiple paths converge. By understanding how they connect, you can learn to weave new paths between them.
Show me.
This might help. It belonged to your mother, her notes on pathfinding.
Sarah took the journal with trembling hands. The cover was worn smooth from handling, the pages dog-eared and filled with elegant handwriting she instantly recognized.
You had this all along?
We thought it best to see what you could discover on your own first. Some techniques can't be taught from books, they must be felt.
Sarah opened the journal to a page marked with a pressed flower, a forget-me-not, her mother's favorite. The page contained diagrams of interconnected circles, notes scribbled in margins, and what appeared to be a poem. The path remembers the walker. The walker remembers the path. Between memory and moment lies the thread we follow home. Below it, in her mother's handwriting, the wayfinder doesn't create paths. It reveals the connections that were always there waiting to be discovered. Sarah traced her finger over the words, feeling a connection to her mother stronger than she had in years.
She knew I would find this someday.
She hoped you would, but she also hoped you'd never need to.
Another tremor shook the grove, this one violent enough to make them stumble. One of the standing stones cracked, a hairline fracture running from top to bottom.
We're out of time, Sarah. You need to attempt a true creation now.
But I'm not ready!
None of us ever are. But the paths choose their keepers for a reason. Trust that your mother knew what she was doing when she bound the Wayfinder to you.
Sarah clutched the journal to her chest, then tucked it securely into her pocket. She moved to the center of the stone circle, the Wayfinder glowing brightly in her palm. Lantern point.
What do I do?
Her voice steadier than she felt.
Think of a place you've never been, but one connected to your mother. Something from her stories, perhaps. Something that might have mattered to her.
Sarah closed her eyes, thinking hard. Her mother had told her bedtime stories about a lighthouse on a cliff where the keeper could see into other worlds through its beam. Sarah had always assumed it was just a fairy tale.
There was a lighthouse in her stories. She said it stood at the edge of the world where reality was thin.
It disappeared 30 years ago when developers tried to turn it into a tourist attraction. No keeper has been able to find its path since. Eyes still closed, concentrating on the image of the lighthouse from her childhood imagination. Lost how? The lantern point. It was real, one of the most powerful nexus points before it was lost.
The ground beneath them shuddered again, and this time the crack in the standing stone widened, spreading to a second stone beside it.
Concentrate, Sarah. If you can find the lantern point, we might have a safe haven beyond the library's reach.
Sarah gripped the Wayfinder tighter, picturing the lighthouse as vividly as she could. White stone tower against stormy skies, powerful beam cutting through the fog, the sound of waves crashing against cliffs below.
I can almost see it, but it's like looking through fog.
That's the veil between existing paths and lost ones. Push through it. Will the path into existence.
Sarah focused harder, sweat beading on her forehead. The Wayfinder stone grew hot in her hand, almost painfully so, but she didn't let go. In her mind's eye, the fog around the lighthouse began to thin. She could make out details now. The weathered door, the spiral staircase within, the keeper's cottage nestled against the cliff face.
It's working. I can see it clearly now.
A sudden crack split the air as another standing stone fractured from top to bottom. The twilight sky above them flickered violently, momentarily showing a different scene. Shadowy figures moving through bookshelves, the librarian's glowing form retreating before them.
They've reached the inner archives. Sarah, it's now or never.
With a final surge of concentration, Sarah pushed her consciousness toward the lighthouse in her mind. The Wayfinder stone blazed like a miniature sun in her palm, casting long shadows across the grove. "The path remembers the walker," she whispered, recalling her mother's words. "The walker remembers the path." And suddenly there it was, not in her mind, but before her. A doorway had appeared in the air at the center of the stone circle, showing a storm-swept cliff and a white lighthouse standing tall against dark clouds.
You did it, a true creation, a path to a place lost for decades.
Is it safe?
Not taking her eyes from the scene.
Safer than here. The collectors won't expect this. They believe the lantern point is lost forever.
Now, what about the librarian?
Hesitating at the threshold of her created path.
The librarian has stood against collectors for centuries. We must trust in that experience.
Another violent tremor rocked the grove, and this time the standing stones began to topple, crashing to the ground around them.
Go now!
Sarah stepped through the doorway, the Wayfinder stone still blazing in her hand. Ellis followed immediately after. Thomas paused at the threshold, looking back at the collapsing grove.
Thomas, come on!